This is the Limelight, and my name is Prince Apollo. Now, today is the 27th day of January, the year 2024, and this week marks 2 years since the former governor for Bank of Uganda, Professor Tumusiime Mutebire, died. And since then, the appointing authority has not appointed a substantive head of the central bank, and that automatically means that the central bank of Uganda has gone without the head for exactly 2 full years. Now, critics are actually questioning this particular issue of running all this time without a central bank governor, and they are actually arguing that this is a critical position that should not remain vacant for all this long. And those are the thoughts we are now going to pick. And in the studios we have Mr. Julius Mukunda. Julius Mukunda is an economist, a senior at that, and he has over 15 years of experience in public finance management and economic management. Welcome to the Limelight, Julius, and let's go straight to the issue of the central bank. Talking about 2 years, the central bank running without a substantive head. Is that an abnormality or not?
I guess we can say it's an abnormality. Why? Because in the first instance, why are we supposed to have a governor? Governance is the one is a unique place. The governor is also the chairperson of the board.
Yeah, true.
Of the central bank
of Uganda.
Yes. So it's like when you don't have a governor and you have somebody who is in the acting capacity, you would believe that the person who is in the acting capacity does not have the full authority over the governor. But if you step back, then you begin to ask yourself, what is it that our central bank is supposed to be doing, but it is not because of the central bank? And that's a very difficult question to answer in the circumstances that when you get our central bank in Uganda and you want to measure it the way it is performing with its peers across the globe, we come out as among the best performing central banks in this on the African continent, but even across the country.
Even without a substantive head?
Even without a substantive head. We've just gone through a crisis without a governor. And the crisis, the central role of the central bank is actually to manage inflation. And they got a taste of that last year. But when our inflation has actually hit at 10%. And by May, June, July, today we are actually far below their target to the extent that now we want to tell them, please, can you prop up the shilling again? An indication that their performance has been exemplary. But there are certain fundamental things that you want to ask yourself operationally, because as a governor, really, you have the full authority. You are an independent person.
True.
When you are in a seat waiting, definitely there are certain things that you are not likely, because as a governor, there are things you will do that actually the political wing might not like.
Oh yeah.
For example, I remember the former governor really telling government that please do not hedge your money on oil.
Oh, yeah.
For example. But that has that one, we know that it now they are doing it. So there are those elements that if you are in a chair and you are very comfortable, there are certain decisions you can make. For example, not surprised that right now, if they are going to make any decision in the central bank, they have to first bounce it back on the executive. And that is not independence. For example, if they want to do a human resource restructuring of the central bank, they have to bounce it back on the executive. But you, as a governor, very independent of any politics, you decide on your own and say, for me to execute my role independently, this is the kind of team I want, and this is the kind of team I'm structuring to meet the challenges I'm facing.
Indeed.
But right now, the current system, they want to do that because they don't have a governor and will have to ask somebody to approve their work.
Mr. Mukunda, are you really insinuating that indeed the central bank could be in the hands of the executive as far as those critical decisions are being made at this point in time?
At this point in time, my take on that is that the central bank is not in a position to make its own decisions.
Sure.
Much as it is important to consult, you consult to understand what other players are thinking,
exactly.
But you make a final decision. Right now, when you are in an acting position, you cannot do that. Because if you do it and it is contrary to what probably I might want, probably I might not confirm you. Because there is a vacancy. So you are here holding it, and everybody's like, maybe it should be me to position myself and I become the governor. But I don't, it is not nice. It is not a good practice. The Constitution is very clear we're supposed to have a governor. So for example, you're supposed to have a speaker. And like how our late friend left, went, may God bless his soul in peace.
The late Jacob Olanyi.
And we said, you know what? Our Honorable Anita is the best. Let's remain with Anita as the deputy, and then we move on. Okay, of course, Parliament is going to function as usual.
But then...
But you see, in turn, when you are in charge of a job that you have fully been given, and you have been given the instruments of power of that particular job, then your mandate to execute your job is unquestionable.
Good. Yeah, I think you're
and that's why people are saying that
clear.
Even the money we are having, people are saying maybe this money is not legal tender
because it is not signed by
the governor. So some people are going to ask some of those things. I mean, and the central bank, of course, came out and raised that. But you are creating lack of confidence in the things that you do, however right they would be, because you are missing. However smooth, I mean, they are weathering the storm, but you don't want people to begin to say you make one mistake and then they just say it's because you don't have a governor, even if the governor was there. So the confidence in the system begin to reduce. And that's why they say central banks must be independent of political machinery.
Okay. And if we recall the service of the late Professor Tumusime Mutebire, may his soul rest, he was credited for speaking to the power, to the authority. I can recall one particular incident that has been quoted over time, that there was a decision at one point to print, for Uganda to print its own money. And Professor Mutebire stood his ground and said, we cannot do that. And that is what you're saying, that possibly this time round, it is what we are likely to miss, or we have been missing for all these 2 years. That decision-making person or organ. And I mean, that is exactly what you're saying.
Let me tell you, can the current leadership at the central bank go to Parliament and tell them, I respect you, but I'm not supposed to be here anyway? Can they say that? They cannot do that. Because they are in a situation whereby they don't have the full mantle and instruments of functioning as a governor. You are functioning at a particular level, and that's it. You already have a ceiling for yourself, even if you're in a acting capacity. So that is the kind of confidence the public wants to see in you, that actually you can prevail over the pressure of any system that is around you. So for example, now if somebody begins this topic of printing money on Entebbe Road there, I don't know if there's any person who's going to help us at this particular moment. Because you see, printing money is doing it internally would be okay. It would be cheaper. It would be okay. But we know that our systems cannot function in that particular way. Some of it might slip out.
It may be abused.
It completely may be abused, yes. and you don't want an economy where money is being printed. So, and it's, you know, illegally. So, and if somebody can't see that, and it's, but you see, for the executive, it is, for the executive actually, is that, I mean, we have a debt of 96 trillion. Why don't you print a trillion and circulate it, and then probably you can have some less pressure? To the executive, that can be a very immediate decision. But to a central bank, that is unthinkable.
Okay.
You can't do that.
You can't do that.
Yes.
And you said it is performing well, even without a substantive head, and that now takes us to another another issue that we can look into. Does that possibly mean that maybe we have redundant officers in jobs in this country?
No, you see, I think the issue of government, I mean, it's started disturbing.
Well, it is constitutional.
No, it has really,
it is legal.
It's disturbed me. It's like you have a plane, there is no captain, and there's the first flight officer.
Oh.
And you're like, it's okay, since we have a flight officer, he knows how to do things, he can still land the plane. So next time it is taking off, last time you flew the plane, why don't you do it again?
Oh.
That is dangerous. You are taking a huge risk.
It's a huge risk.
Because when a crisis hits, and of a bigger magnitude,
you have only and only.
You have only a flight officer.
You don't have a captain.
Captain who is very well experienced in managing crises. This is what we are. That's what we are on. So we manage the inflation. What's the problem?
That is
we don't need.
That's a very befitting example.
So, and I think this is what we are in the situation, that because we are so lucky, we have not been hit by a huge crisis. We are still.
In your experience, Julius, what could possibly give us a scenario under certain circumstances in which we could be actually at a very, very, very big risk? Tell us what could possibly go wrong without a substantive head of the central bank.
You see, this one is that the central bank mandate has expanded. It used to be very small, manage inflation, monetary policy, in exchange rate, prices, manage that. But the central bank role has expanded. It has expanded to providing liquidity to manage the financial crises. It has gone to stabilizing the economy. That's another element. It has also provided funding for certain strategic investment for governments to move on.
Yeah, to promote economic development.
To promote economic development. And that's why now we find that here in Uganda, our Bank of Uganda is managing some government programs, like the Agricultural Credit Facility, for example. They are the ones who are managing it. Like the small scale and medium enterprises, they are the ones who are managing it. Because now it has expanded. So if these go wrong, then our economic development begins also to crumble. Therefore, you need somebody who would say, this is how much I can take, and this is not what I can take, or this is wrong, and you make a final decision. And those are critical decisions that a governor takes, not anybody else. But if you leave an acting governor and then you say you are the one to take these decisions, and you have not provided him full instruments, when things go wrong, he has nothing to protect him. So you need to insulate the central bank from any other risks that are associated with managing some of these particular programs that they are running. If they decide to say we are closing this bank because they have found out that they can no longer manage it.
Yes.
And on the political side, you are like, no, this bank is too big to fail, so we don't, let us push in more money.
Those are decisions taken by the governor.
The governor. He said, no, I don't think I need to continue with this. Because at the end of the day, they are measured in terms of how they performed. And then they will have this bank, this should have supposed to have closed 3 years ago, but it's still on their books. It's a very huge risk. But that also sends a signal to the whole sector that actually things can be done in a different way and you still live. So you need a strict central bank to say things can't move in this particular way. This is where I stop. But if I'm going to put a stop, and for you can go around and say, no, I need to get some political backup, then you are making the central bank decisions, I mean, toothless. You can't
all right, now as we wind up, Mukunda, Julius, can you make some recommendations in this particular situation, which you said is very risky? It's like flying a plane without a captain. Are there any recommendations possible you can make? Because the appointing authority seems not to be ready to appoint a substantive governor at this point in time. What else can be done, maybe to patch up? I don't know if you have any recommendations.
I mean, if we have failed to get a Ugandan who can run
in absence of
if there is no Ugandan who can run it, let us put an advert in the newspapers. And they say Uganda government of Uganda requires a governor. And you say many people will apply for it.
Really?
They sit for interview and then they manage this. It's not a rocket science issue, really. It's not. But and I don't know why. I really don't know why.
If I may ask, Julius, you've been in this field for a very long time. Do you see people who are capable of leading the central bank of Uganda? Here within this country.
Oh goodness Lord, there are so many. Makerere University has really graduated so many doctors in economics and public finance management. I never knew the current acting governor until they brought him. I was like, wow. And he was international. He's highly credited. Has worked in international institutions, including the World Bank. How many of our Ugandans are working in these international institutions? There are so many. I think the problem is not we lack really.
Okay.
I think the problem is that the appointing authority is taking his time. But I think it is now. I think the time is too long. we really need a governor so that when the plane hits turbulence,
yes,
we know that at least there is somebody who is there to manage it.
Your final comment, Julius Mukunda, as we wind up this.
My final comment is that I think it should be a best practice that people heading this, we should ensure that nobody is in an acting position for more than 6 months if you are heading a government institution, including NSSF, including parliament, including judiciary, including all these. It's a best practice that in 6 months you are replaced. If the vacant, if
you're not fit for the job, you're replaced.
If you are not
fit for it, they will confirm.
If it is vacant in 6 months, it should be filled. That's the best corporate practice, and I think we should follow that in whatever happens. So I really appeal to His Excellency the President that it's now 2 years. We need a governor so that we can have even more confidence in our economy.
Good. Thank you so much, Julius Mukunda. And Julius Mukunda is the Executive Director for CSBAG. And CSBAG stands for Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, and a senior economist there with more than 15 years of experience in public finance management and economic management. We thank you so much for your time. It was a very befitting example of a plane flying without a pilot, and that is it. That is the state of affairs at Bank of Uganda in the eyes of Julius Mukunda. My name is Prince Apollo. Let's catch up again next week on Friday in the next edition of The Dialogue. I may say, God bless you, God bless Uganda.